I'm Tania Bruguera. I'm a political artist believing in art as an agent of social change. I am a kind of like the serpent that peels off the skin every few years or every whatever times. Because as an artist, I have gone through that change several times. I feel like once people, quote unquote, understand what I'm doing, it is very hard for me to tell them stuff because they don't even need to see it anymore because before even seeing it, they think they know what it is. And all my work is about making people think. So in order for them to think, they have to be open to hear first and then have their own conclusions later. The first problem I think you encounter when you do social engaged art or public sphere art, whatever you want to call it, or social and political art, is like a lot of people in the art world seem offended once they realize they have to be educated. So I think that's a big problem there because then you lose part of your audience immediately. And then of course the idea is not to do something didactic, so it's to do something with a lot of layers of complexity so everybody can find something they can learn from the experience. What I feel very happy about is also when the work spill out of the art world, and it was in Cuba, and actually it's the piece that the museum bought. It was almost like a thermometer, like, okay, let's see what would people do in Cuba if they actually have freedom. And that was like a social experiment in a way, you know? And I don't mean social experiment in the sense of like manipulating people, because some people get very nervous when you use those terms, but I think it's more about a theater of future opportunities or future situations that you have the chance to practice in advance through art. In the case of that piece, it was extremely complicated because I had to go through a lot of negotiations with the institution. I was transparent the whole time with the institution, but at the same time, I had to plant some people in the audience so the piece went where I wanted to go. My documentation was kidnapped by the secret police, so it was complicated when we were installing because the quality of the video is not like museum quality. But the thing is, that's what I have. And I had it by chance because I had some of the students in Chicago who came with a camera and recorded it. Otherwise, I would not have anything. But I think that one of the things we missed in the documentation is that at the beginning, before I start the piece, I give 300 disposable cameras to the audience. And my original idea about that was just focusing on the flash, kind of like making a more realistic copy of what happened in those events. But what happened is like the camera became the protection of the people who were talking, because imagine if something happened, like some abusive behavior by the police or something happened, then you have 300 photos minimum who will go you don't know where, because it was full of foreigners and press and so on. But some of my friends have actually sent me some scans of the photos, and yeah, so the documentation is on their hands actually. Which is something I also like in my work, because I think we need to democratize documentation. So they talk in favors and against the revolution, in general ways, in specific ways. So it was more about like a public forum. Really the most important statement somebody did, which was very in the moment, you know, is somebody who is a not so well known, but quite followed by some people, blogger, that say, I hope one day freedom of speech in Cuba doesn't have to be a performance. And when she said that, I said, okay, the piece is done. Because I mean, they all kind of got it, you know? So yeah, I was happily surprised by the reaction of people, because I was very emotional to seeing people actually doing it. So.